Welcome. No, welcome. No. We're not going to do that. Anyway, another draft physics video presentation. Yes. Comments and then other stuff. And it'll make a whole video somehow. Not my fault. Uh, anyway, uh, try to make shorter videos, but so far it just hasn't worked. But it'll happen soon. So anyway, some commenter said, "Are you Isaac Jacob? Are you dumbass fucktard?" I mean, what? Anyway, so I fell for it. Alright, that sort of was clickbaity, and I said, "Oh, I gotta find out who this guy is. Isaac Jacob. He has two first names, two first religious names. Ew." Anyway, it turns out there is one. Okay, it doesn't have anything to do with physics or anything. And he called his band that, which isn't too brilliant, but it went anyway. So it just proves how broken the internet is. You know how broken YouTube is, because this guy's actually pretty good. I mean, I hate country music, but this is really.
She said, I don't love you
It's well produced. He's got a good voice. It's his own song. It's sounds like country music pretty much. I mean, it's just really, really good. And he's got 256 or something, 285 subscribers. And it's been up for over a year. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I subscribed. I mean, this is just doesn't make any sense. Sorry. It's his original song. He performs it. It's well produced, and he has 285 subscribers. I mean, I don't believe it. It just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, just in evidence. I mean, I have found some other physicists, making videos for 8 years, and they're really good. I mean, it's garbage physics, but they're good videos, and 358 views or something. I mean, it's just terrible, and this is all because you keep glorifying the popular, and the popular aren't performing their job, which is to lead you to all of this stuff. They're supposed to be doing what I'm doing right now, is pointing to this stuff and saying, look at this. Yeah, that's what they should be doing, and they're not doing it. So anyway, just throw that in, just as evidence. The internet does not work. Google in control is a really bad idea. So anyway, I will remove this comment as it is irrational gibberish. I don't know where do these people come from? In Flyora's video, comment pops up. So I'll have to deal with that one now that it's here. Anyway, she had found some guy on Instagram. Okay, she doesn't give me any information, so I'm like, well, what do you mean? Did you talk to him? Does he know physics? Does he have an interest in talking about the foundations of physics? Nothing. She doesn't provide anything. And then she provided the wrong link, which was ironic also. So the guy she linked me to was an Indian guy who barely, he spoke English, but you know what I mean. It's going to be a rough conversation because, whatever it is about the Indian language, it makes it really hard for people who are even speaking it well to speak it audibly, just because their accent is so heavy. But anyway, it's no shot at it. It's really great. People know more than one language. It's, got to admire all that stuff. But, it's just a little short of understandable English. Anyway, because he's on Instagram, I don't care where, what is this? Facebook or something? I don't know. You didn't get the correct link and da 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 da. You still haven't given me any information why this person has any interest in this subject and how this person has anything to contribute. And the link is to some guy who doesn't make videos. I have no idea, who he is or what he is, and you think I should just blindly you know, um, irritate people? No, I don't think I'll do that. Then she says here something about binge watching this channel, and that's your whole problem, Flyora. You're too bingy. Okay, you're an information groupie. You just cling. You see one little, you go that way, then you go that way. You're bouncing all over the place. You gotta settle down. Take it a step at a time or something. I don't know. You need a one-step program. A slow step program. Maybe that's it. Slow. Step slowly. Okay? 1 foot at a time. But anyway, this is such a difficult job. All right, so this John Smythe guy, what's the point of this crap? It's just amazing that people just keep doing this. Like, oh yeah, you're making yourself look really clever with this kind of garbage. I mean, all your daily videos, thousands plus, and your reckoning are an invaluable historical record. Well, I suppose your comments are, in a way, too, a valuable historical record, because it basically demonstrates why the human race fails. Is because it gives license to assholes. It doesn't have any kind of merit pay system. It doesn't have any kind of system that says, no, there's really good citizens and there's really shitty citizens. There's people who are making a sincere effort to advance the human condition, and people making a sincere effort to advance their own. There's people with tiny penises with petty little problems that can't deal with, and they have all kinds of resentments, and so they go out and attack people for silly reasons because, oh, they just have such good hair and you don't have any. I mean, I used to babysit for a little mongoloid kid, and he was bald, and he was obsessed with my hair. He just, so I ended up having to be his babysitter because he was just obsessed with my hair, so he didn't get in any other trouble than getting his, grabbing my hair and just clinging to it, And so people thought that was really great, that instead of breaking everything in the house, he would just pull my hair all day. And so I ended up stuck with the job. But anyway, I just, I'll go through the whole story. But that's how you people are behaving. You're behaving like little mongoloid children. You're really an embarrassment to the human race. Okay, as to what this historical record demonstrates, there is only two possibilities. Well, I don't know if there's just two, but yeah, it pretty much just demonstrates that you cement-headed shit talkers, you have no qualification, you're talking way beyond your knowledge. At least I've gone out and looked and researched the subjects I'm talking about. I haven't just sat back and said, I'm just going to voice my opinion based on what the experts I like, the people who say things I like, the Trump supporters or something. You're just mimicking their gibberish. You're not adding anything to the conversation. Okay, all the mainstream scientists and all the dissents, well, we know the dissenters are 99%, okay, motivated by religion or like this whole anti-ness and just being anti. They're like little goth people, and they're just being anti everything, you see, because one thing is broken, everything is broken, and they're having little tantrums. So most of the dissidents have no credibility because they're fighting because they have a small penis. They're not doing it for any good reason. All right, they're not in this battle for any purpose to say let's find the truth. They're trying to assert some, God done it or Venus did it. The frickin' flat Earth electric universe people are just so crazy. Oh, I want to make mythology real. Oh, the cavemen knew the truth. This kind of. I mean, it's a silly agenda. Let's make old biblical stories accurate. It's so pathetic. Anyway, science, all the dissidents are avoiding you because they are cowering in fear and awe of your brilliance. Well, clearly what we have found is all these arrogant, obnoxious people who are picking on the retards. That is, these people picking on the flat earthers or whatever, the antivirus people or the this, that, the pseudo game being played, where they're, attacking the tinfoil hat community, the ripe, rotten fruit. They're clearly cowards. $1,500 and they don't take the challenge? Come on, get real. Anyway, your daily pantomime. Oh, I'm clearly not just pantomiming. Pantomiming is, really a moot performance art. It's not vocal. And clearly, a substantial part of these videos is the audio track. I don't think there's too many people watching without the audio. I don't think there's too many. Shows that you are not understanding fundamental high school level concepts in basic mechanics. Well, you've demonstrated none of that. And my counter argument is that no, you are the ignoramus who has no clue about how any of this stuff functions. You can't draw any of it on a board. You don't even understand the distinction between matter and force. I mean, you think things just move because the move sign was in front of it and it had an arrow, detour, and it just follows the detour signs. You have no clue, retard. These are not relativistic or quantum mechanical concepts. So again, you haven't demonstrated any of this that I don't understand. Push and pull. Let's see, maybe did you ever do a video on push and pull and explain how pull is so intuitively sensible? How mechanically it makes a ton of sense that something just magically pulls? Alright. These basic concepts are common to all mechanical throughout time. Yeah, all mechanics. So again, if we have a job to do, like, take a furnace apart or a car, for example, or some other mechanical device, you think you can do it better than me. Well, I think you'll fail, okay? I mean, I built machines. I've had jobs doing these very thing. So I think I'm probably a lot more familiar with basic mechanics than you are. Anyway, throughout time, from Aristotelian, Galilean, Newtonian, again, so that's your dodge. You want to go live in these names, these religions defined by people. And frankly, there is no such thing as Galilean and Newtonian and all of this horse shit. There's an accurate description of reality and an inaccurate one. And the truth is that Newton did a lot of great things, but I suppose he shouldn't have started defining laws, okay, that maybe just aren't true. I mean, the fact is that I would claim gravity is violating the law of conservation. It is consuming some energy because you're consuming time. And by consuming time, time is money. That's a simple phrase. It is, I mean, if you're doing one thing, you can't be doing something else. And that's the simple truth. And if the one thing you're doing is taking time, then you can't show up somewhere else at the same time because you had to use some time, moving matter. It's just a fact. It is full... It is truly astounding that no one has clued you in. Yeah, that is amazing, isn't it? That all these people couldn't clue me in. Even for $1,500, they still won't clue me in. Wouldn't that be great if they could possibly clue me in? But they can't. To your confusion of these basic concepts. So again, he says absolutely nothing. He makes no physics argument at all. He just says, I presume you guilty, I convict you, and I am an important testifier. I mean, every trial should have you show up to give your opinion because you're such a qualified human being. You've done so much in your life to prove that you are the man. And so every trial should have you just show up, get in the witness stand, and give your opinion of whether the guy's guilty or innocent, because you know everything. When you haven't demonstrated you know a fucking thing about anything. Alright, the above are the only two possibilities. Well, I'm just saying the third possibility is that physics is full of little boys, okay? And they're all very excited, little nerds. And nerds get very excited, and they just went a little too far. I mean, they're playing with their little blocks, and then they started telling little Star Trek stories to each other. Let's see if we can make a tractor beam. Let's see if we can, And then all of a sudden, they're with their little Legos sitting there saying, "Look, it's a wormhole. Isn't it magical?" Yeah, no, it's not magical. There is no third option. Yes, and the time will tell. So. John Smythe, I don't even know if that's your real name, but you've made your statement. I'm going to make my counter argument. And yes, I'm perfectly willing for whoever's right or wrong to be perfectly pilloried and throw tomatoes and do all of that stuff. So I hope you get what you deserve. I frankly haven't done anything but question your authority and suggest that maybe your physics is way under evidenced. And you won't even admit that. So I can show a pile of evidence for the theory of evolution, yet most of the human race doesn't believe it, right? Which is funny. But that doesn't bother you, right? But this little channel asserting that your physics is way under evidence, that you have nothing like the theory of evolution. You have just like a religion. Your theory looks just like religion. Your theory of dark matter and bent space and virtual photons all sounds like a bunch of wooey nonsense. And you have shit as evidence. I mean, just absolute shit. You have lies about detector experiments and magical electrons that split in two and go through both slits because they magically know they're supposed to do that. I mean, it's so bad. And you have this dopey notion that things are only measured when it's somehow connected to a human camera, where the human's watching the TV screen. I'm watching a monitor, something's happening on the... Well, if I'm not watching the monitor, none of it happened. I mean, you have these silly notions of reality that are just laughably bad. So whatever. Fucky Yui. Shit. Such a uselessly stupid comment. So yes, I preserved it for posterity. I hope in the future people recognize, the human race recognizes, boy, we've totally failed by letting assholes run this world. And this is a perfect example of the assholes running the world. The assholes setting the agenda. The person who knows nothing telling us what reality is. Woo. Fuck. He's so bad. Ugh. So another one. Link Gunther. Okay, who knows who this character is? So his icon is him as a weather vane. So he goes out and practices being a weather vane. A metal chicken. So that's his thing in life, is let's all be metal chickens. Oh, fuck. Thank you. No matter how bad things get, I can always watch your videos and know at least I'm nowhere near as crazy as that guy. Well, I can do likewise. I mean, I can say, gee, you know what? I didn't do a bad job. I didn't really fail. It's just that this audience is so fucking dumb that, there was no hope. There just wasn't any way for it to happen because the human race is just that fucking stupid. They really are that fucking stupid. That didn't matter. You could draw it really big in crayon. You could do anything. It doesn't. They're too busy eating their cookies. They're just too busy, too distracted to learn the 2 + 2 + 2 physics. Ooh, it's too much for their little tiny brains. Let's see. Did Brian steal your girlfriend in elementary school? Yeah, what do you think the odds of that are? Yeah, I bet he was probably the coolest kid in high school, right? You could just imagine how nerd was written all over him. Oh, pathetic. You are the most ignorant sounding person I've ever seen in a long time. Yes, well, big deal. I mean, I can't say you're the dumbest commenter, but you're in the category for sure. Stupid, really fucking dumb, vacuous, empty, nonsense. Oh, like I couldn't type that on anyone's video. I mean, that's not saying much for you, right? If you type something that any moron could have typed and put it on any video, well, that's not doing anything really special or anything to qualify you as somebody better than anybody. Maybe you should smoke even more before your next video. So this makes a lot of sense too, right? In the real context of the world, you could say in the last 1,000 years, 95% of all the great physics was produced by people who smoked. So again, you're failing. Do you think you can get much dumber? Cheers. So I don't know what cheers. This cheers thing is just kind of funny to me. What does that mean? That's a shortcut for what? Cheerio? What is that? Does that make sense to you? Does that mean something to you? Cheerio? Oh, amazing. So anyway, yes, can you get more irrational and irrelevant and pointless in your critique? I mean, could you get somewhere near the actual subject? Why don't you just show up and say something silly about, my eyebrows? I mean, this critique is so meaningless. It's so empty, so useless, so fucking ignorant. And you think you're demonstrating to me, you're showing me how I'm a fool because Link Gunther, the guy who practices being a weather vane, thinks I'm stupid. And you think that's a convincing argument. I'll be very, very worried about my mental health because of this encounter with you, Link. No, I won't be worried. I'll just be depressed. So you're just pointing out, don't interact with humans. They really are worse than bugs. Ugh. Oh, shit. Ugh. Alright, so I already did that one, so we're done with the comments. Alright, the actual comments. So I have a few non-actual comments. I mean, the ones that come by email. So I, a while back, blocked some guy called Jerry Hall because he was a rude jerk. And anyway, but he still sends comments now and then, so I'll read a couple of his ignorant, stupid, retarded comments because he really doesn't pay any fucking attention. So why do you bother? If you're really not going to pay attention to what's in the videos, why bother? I'm just saying you can't get stuff this wrong if you actually watch the video. I mean, maybe you watch a video the way Piro does, where it's on, but it's playing in the other room. You're really not watching, you're really not seeing, you're really not listening. So, I mean, there's really just no point. So he says, if I understand you correctly, you say that photons go through the slits at a certain frequency. Yes, the pieces of the photon. I said it 400 times now. Photons are a composite object. They do not travel as some sort of thing. They're an arrangement of things. So anytime that arrangement shows up, it's a photon. But the elements of the photon, okay, the thing that makes the photon a photon is really pieces. What am I looking for? Camera. Alright. Oh, that didn't work. So you mean I have to turn that off? Well, that's kind of irritating, but I'll do it. Okay. Alright, so I mean, some of you I've been over this so many times. I mean, this is just not complicated. There's bits in the universe, is the claim. Okay, and there's bits that reflect or give momentum to electrons. And they're the ones we're really talking about here. But they're just bits in space, right? So, all they are little bits of momentum, and they move the speed of light. This thing moves the speed of light in a direction. All these little bits. Okay, and so when the bits have an actual that is when the bits come at exact pieces of time, it means they can do certain things. They can tip things. So if I was trying to tip something over, or I was trying to add energy to a pendulum, I can understand that if I send this push energy at a certain frequency, it means I could add energy to the pendulum. If the pendulum's swinging that way, when I add the energy, okay, then the pendulum will swing higher and more, and that I could actually fly an electron out of a circumstance if I can actually hit it twice while it's moving away. Alright, but if I hit it when it's moving towards, then I'm going to take energy out of that system. I'm going to give it less momentum, it's less speed. So it's about adding speed and subtracting speed from objects, and that's what photons do. They add speed or subtract speed from an object when they interact with it. And if they do that at certain frequencies, they'll have a likelihood of adding energy versus a likelihood of taking energy away. And then I pointed out how these photons have a polarization. That is, they're flying through space in a direction, these little bits of the photon, the composite objects, and that makes the polarization of the light, because they're a little bit out of alignment, just a little bit. And, well, it's actually a lot of bit, thousands of atoms worth, which indicates that obviously this whole photon isn't interacting with a single electron. its pieces are interacting with different electrons and different atoms in a substance. And, so it's a little more complicated than just saying photon hits. No, this is a timed event. It takes time to make a photon. It takes time to receive a photon. That's all the evidence indicates. And it's about a frequency. It's not about a wavelength. It's just about a frequency. Frequency, okay? And frequency can happen between objects that are in no way connected to each other. It just happens that they arrive at the right time. So I could have one arrive from here, I could have one arrive from here, and I could have one arrive, well, you can't see that. Alright, I gotta remember the board is down here. Theoretically on a surface, I could have one arrive here from here, and I could have one arrive, this would be later because I'm going deeper, and I could have one arrive from there, and I could have one arrive from there, and you can get the idea that those three arrivals could have the right interval to recreate the frequency. And that's all that matters, is the frequency hitting a portion of space. And then it causes an action of electricity, or whatever you want to call it, that we detect, and we say that was a photon. We don't detect a photon, we detect a reaction created in a substance. Jeez. So, this back on. And I guess I'll turn that off just because it looks better, I suppose. Alright, their original arrangement will make a pattern on the screen. Yes, so they go through slits at a certain frequency, and because of their original arrangement will make a pattern on the screen. Yes, well, there'll be little pieces will go to different locations, and then the little pieces will be recombined. And that's all, in phase. A piece will take a longer path and show up at the right timing so the frequency is maintained. This implies that they are connected somehow. I don't know how you say it implies that. Where's the implication that the little bits are in any way connected? There's no connection. They're sent. A gun is shooting them. So I'm matter. I'm going to shoot a photon. What I'm really doing is one atom over here shoots an a photon, in the sense the electron moves. Then another atom, the electron moves. And then another atom, the electron moves. And all that's happened is now in space, there is a photon. Because there's a little bit traveling here, there's a little bit traveling a little higher here, and there's a little bit traveling here, and they all have a distance between them in space. So a bullet, it's like a gun went off, bang, 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 right? So there's bullets in space, and they're separated by distance in 2 dimensions. Now, what about that is way too complicated for you? How are the bullets connected to each other? The bullets aren't connected to each other. They're just circumstantially connected. There is no real connection. There is no physical connection. Alright, this implies that they are connected somehow and not individual particles. So there's no implication of that anywhere in any of the videos. So again, I don't even know how you perverted everything I've said into that nonsense. Okay, a particle doesn't care about how it started out. Exactly the point. All we're talking about is path lengths. So the particles moving, the bullets are moving the same speed, and there's no argument that their speed is being changed. So the argument is their direction is being changed. That's all that's being changed. They're changing their direction. And maybe it took a little time to change their direction. It wouldn't matter. The point is it's just about arrival times. And it's about the distance. The path length distance is going to tell you something about a possible arrival time. All right. A particle doesn't care about where it started out. I think you compared photons to a troop. I compared it to soldiers. I never said the word troop. So again, so I don't know what you're getting at there even. Yes, it's soldiers. And if I send soldiers all at once, it can look like a wave of soldiers. But it's not a wave in any physical sense. The individual soldiers are not connected to each other. The individual soldiers don't have a rope tied to each other. One can actually go, one place and another one goes another place and they're not paying any attention, and they can show up somewhere and just happen to show up at the same hooker's door at the same time. Wow. Or the same woman to be raped, or whatever. Like soldiers, they march through the slits at a certain distance. Well, there you go. You got that part right. And let's understand, but they're not parallel, right? They're not in perfect alignment. So there's certain rules about alignment. But anyway, from each other. One can imagine a human troop being scattered and reunite. Yeah, they could imagine that it's D-Day and a bunch of soldiers go out onto the beach, and then they end up all getting into chaos, and then they all end up at the same lunchroom and have a cigarette. I mean, yeah, one can imagine, and it doesn't have anything to do with being tied to each other. Just happened to be that that's the way it worked out. There would be lots of coincidences, where, hey, you're from Troop A and I'm from Troop A. We haven't been anywhere near each other for 3 days, and hey, we banged into each other again. Yeah, all of that would happen. Okay. When particles get scattered, they don't unite. Well, the point is yes, they do. The fact is that scatter will do that. If I scatter blue from one corner and white from another corner, or red, from another edge, you could understand there'd be lots of places where there'll be red on red, and there'll be lots of places where there's blue on red, and there'll be places where it's red and blue, red and blue, red and blue. That'll happen just by the law of goddamn averages. I mean, it just will happen that way. They have to reunite. They have to repair to some percentage. It's inevitable. Okay, and because this is such a simple mechanism, it's that simple. They'll either be out of phase or in phase, out of phase or in phase. There won't be any other choices. Okay, unless there's a force pulling them together. So more nonsense. You're scattering from 2 locations. I'm shining red light from this location. I'm shining blue light from this location. There's absolutely no reason not to understand it's going to be purple light that's going to be created everywhere. Nothing had to force it to happen. Okay. There's no force made that happen. Together, but they don't. They will make the same pattern. Alright, unless there is a force pulling them together, but I doubt they will make the same pattern. Well, it's inevitable that they will. That's the whole point of drawing the 2 lines. I mean, I just can't believe you can be this ignorant and make such arrogant statements. I mean, you're so ignorant, you don't even know what a path length difference is in the 2-slit experiment. You don't even understand the whole concept that they're drawing path length differences and marking whole wavelengths where there's a whole wavelength difference in the path. You'll end up inevitably having the frequency recreated. There's no other way for it to happen. Their own diagrams essentially have wave in them. That means more than one wave, and they're sort of arguing that yes, the second wave from this location ends up being the first wave of the new created wavefront, and this shorter location creates the third wave, and blah 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 blah. I mean, their own mechanics allows for this, and yet you're being obnoxiously stupid in just pretending you can't understand path length differences and that they're inevitable. That's why it's on off. It's because it's inevitable. Okay, that the path lengths from the 2 sources, there's rules about the distance between the 2 sources, and that dictates where the 2 lines end up having a whole wavelength difference. I mean, I won't draw it because it's just so elemental to all the analysis. My analysis, their analysis, any analysis is going to depend on understanding path length difference and full wavelength difference. And the fact that you haven't figured that part out, and yet you're being critical. Ugh. Anyway. When the particles get scattered, they don't unite. So again, they can't do anything other than unite. It's all cast on the same surface. There's not more surface or less surface. It's all the same surface. So you have a certain amount of shit going in, and all of it has to go somewhere. You're the ones arguing that somehow some of it doesn't get there. I'm saying it gets there, but yeah, obviously in some places it's not going to be in the same frequency. Unless there is a force pulling them together, I doubt they will make the same pattern. It's because they are individual particles. Again, so you just don't understand the concept. They're individual waves in the goddamn wave equation, idiot. the two waves coming from the two different surfaces, that are in the wrong place by their theory. Clearly, those are two individual waves, and they show up at a location. So you just, like I said, you don't even get their theory. Unlike a wave where they are connected. So the two waves from the 2 point sources, idiot, are no way connected in their theory. In their theory, those two waves aren't connected. So you're not getting this at all, you idiot. Shit. And dependent on what the others are doing. So it's just nonsense. By stating that photons create a pattern which is a reflection of their original arrangement, I don't state that. What I'm stating is just kind of, like I said, how can I make it any clearer? And this idiot is just being, obnoxious. There's nothing. Again, this is not anything new. I'm not arguing that this actually doesn't happen. Okay, I'm arguing that it actually does. That the fact is that the slit creates point sources. The point sources are radiating bits. Just like you could say it looks like a wave, right? If I drew this, you'd say, okay, it's a wave. No, I'm saying it's just individual bits, but that's what's going through the slits, okay? The frequency's coming through at the same frequency, the light, especially from a laser. It's in phase. Most of the soldiers arrive in these clumps, on these lines. Alright, so all of them will be leaving here with the same line. And all you're saying is that the only thing that's changing is because it's a point source that's creating the diffraction, that it's going to be equidistant from this point source is where you're going to end up. You're either going to be here, you're going to be here, you're going to be here, you're going to be here. You're going to be in one of these locations when you hit this surface. And when you hit this surface, you're going to be in one of these locations. There, here, here. Right? So you came in bunches, in alignment of distance from each other, the same distance from each other. The ones that go straight through just go straight through. The ones that go near the surface are the ones that are doing this thing. Okay, they're going at some alignment. And you can just measure the distances. So I pick a distance here, and I say, can a soldier from here, okay, and a soldier from here end up arriving here at the right sequence? So this one arrives, and because this length is exactly a wavelength difference, the guy who went here at the same time, so this guy goes here, the guy right next to him here, right, well, he's over here next to this surface anyway, he ends up at the same location, but he's later because he has to move more distance, a whole wavelength of difference in distance. And so this one shows up, bang, this one shows up the appropriate amount of time later because it's of the distances. And it's that simple. You only have two places they can come from. And so all you're saying is where are the lines a full wavelength difference? When the lines are a full wavelength different, okay, when there's a full wavelength of difference, here they'd be the same wavelength, so that's obviously in alignment. So that means a guy from this row and a guy from this row, all right, have no problem, right? Because this first row guy shows up a time later. This one shows up exactly the right time later, okay, from the second row, and then the guy from the third row shows up the right time later. So the middle is going to be really simple. And obviously, as I make the path lengths difference, the only ones that are going to have light are the places where they're back in alignment. But the alignment can be, like I said, one was from this row and one was from this row, and that made the photon because the path lengths are different. So a photon that went through the slit later, okay, is the one creating this second piece, and the third piece and the fourth piece are created by later photons. Not photons that hit here at the same time, not soldiers that hit here at the same time. So all you're doing is putting the sequence back together. And obviously there'll be places where there is no path length continuity. The path lengths aren't in phase. And so then the timing will be off, and two soldiers will show up too close to each other, or two soldiers will show up too late. There won't be the right frequency. Shit. But again, that's the same as they're drawing. Oh, I'm just not putting a wave there. I'm not drawing a wave. I'm saying they're independent little objects. And if I did it with sand, you'd understand it. You'd understand the sand particles have a speed they're going, and they're all going the same speed. And you could say, okay, you could understand where the sand particle could possibly be at any moment in time. Oh, anyway. All right. So on the others, what's it say? So where did I leave off here? I got to put that back, don't I? Yes, I do. All right. Unlike the wave where they are connected depending on what others are doing, by stating that photons create a pattern which is a reflection of their original arrangement. So it's not a reflection of it; it's a recreation of their of the arrangement of the distance. You have indirectly admitted that light acts as a wave. So I haven't done any such thing. You're just too fucking stupid. You're just really stupid. Anyway, so then he sent another message. A wave will have the same speed and frequency throughout its existence because it's basically information. So, no, it isn't basically information, retard. It's action. It's movement. Things are moving, idiot. Okay, they're not informationing about the thing that caused it. Oh, it's just such an idiotic way to understand the mechanics. But let's understand what a wave is, okay? Because it really has to do with this idea that you wouldn't, if it wasn't for the forces, okay, the other forces that exist, and that doesn't work, around things, in the context of the material, none of this wave crap would even happen. So it's a phenomenon completely dependent on inelasticity in certain substance, the ability to store and then reflect that storage, that is reintroduced what you've stored. I don't want that. I want to get rid of this. So just a water wave. What happens? Well, the water wave is that the water molecules are non-compressible. That is, you can't make the atoms change their shape in some way to accommodate any kind of imposition. So if you stick a pencil in there, the water has to completely displace the volume of the pencil. The water isn't mushy. The water itself isn't elastic. It will not, inelastic. It will not allow you. It is elastic. It will not allow you to penetrate it. So the idea is if I stick an extra little thing in here, this stuff has to recreate the separation, the distance. And it can do it in that direction. It can do it back in this direction. Or it could do it up and down is the simple one. You're saying, oh, okay, it just pushes this one up a little. All right, so here's my basic line. And now I've pushed something up. Well, what's the consequence in our real world of pushing something up? Oh, the real world is that's called a violation of gravity. You've now created potential energy because you've pushed it where gravity says it really doesn't belong. Gravity says it belongs here. You've pushed it up here. So the fact is that the gravitational force is now creating the potential inelasticity in the sense that now it's going to say, no, I'm rejecting that. And it's going to push it back down again. Okay, so the next step is going to be to push this one back here, and that's the same action as this action. Okay, so you push this in, and now that meant this went up. Gravity says no, so it pushes it back down, which is exactly the same thing as you pushing the first thing in. So now it's got a downward motion, and so now this downward motion has to go somewhere. And it can't push into the soil of the ocean floor, so that's not going to work. So then the pressure ends up going this way again. What does that mean? Oh, that means there's a line of atoms here, and you're pushing into them again. You're adding an extra atom, and that atom says, I have to go up. And it goes up, and gravity says, no, you can't go up, so it pushes it back down again. That's how it works, shithead. This is not called information. This is called movement. You are moving, you are displacing. The displacement moves across space because gravity keeps saying that I will not accept the energy. I will not fix your energy problem. You have an energy problem. You shove something in. I'm not going to let you change this equation. I am a conservative energy force in the sense that no matter what you do, I will fight against it, okay? I'm another force. I'm a real force. I exist. Okay, and if you go into gravity, you will have to go out of gravity, so to speak. There's a potential, and it's a fast-acting force. Okay, gravity doesn't fool around, so it's not gonna let you say, okay, I'm gonna impose against gravity, and then I'm just gonna stay up here. I'm not gonna let gravity affect me for a while. No, gravity says fuck you all the time. It's saying fuck you when you first started. It's saying fuck you as your whole trip. It's saying fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. That's why the space shuttle has to have a giant counter fuck you flame. It has to have a giant fuck you flame because it's got to say to gravity, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, really hard to be able to get through gravity's fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You get it, stupid fuckhead? Alright, I gotta quit doing that. Quit swearing. It degrades my popularity. Yeah. Anyway, how could you not understand this? Stupid fuck. I mean, I really can't make it any simpler. I really can't. Alright, because it's basic information about the thing that caused it. So that is just such baby talk. That has nothing to do with any wave that exists anywhere. The wave is always made out of things banging into things, real things. Alright? And that's how the wave propagates. And it's just because certain objects are conservative in the sense that they really just can't deal with any change. And there won't be any friction and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, springs will lose some of their spring into the heat, and they'll do some things, but they're really efficient in the sense that whatever you impose on them will, in a sense, have to find a way out, because it's not going to stop until it does. Okay, when you throw a rock in water, the waves instantly have a speed. Yeah, that's the whole point of this, is that the argument is that the speed of sound is a mechanism where I'm saying that obviously you have to impose on the system faster than it can displace the energy. So you poke in, it has to react viscerally. I mean, with another knee-jerk kind of reaction. So it's more like knee-jerk, 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 rather than, oh, something hit me, I'll let my brain process it, I'll let it use up some of the energy through friction, I'll get rid of the energy throughout my whole body, and so my leg won't have to jerk, that kind of thing. It's just about the difference between energy that can be spread everywhere and energy that can't be because it is imposed too quickly. Alright, that they maintain as long as they exist. So obviously maintain as long as they exist is a key phrase here. Obviously waves do degrade with distance. Obviously waves in substances get weaker and weaker because there is some friction. But the speed of the medium is the key to the interaction being able to perpetuate through the medium. Again, I have to impose on the medium faster than the speed of sound to cause that effect. If I move slower than the speed of sound, you can sort of understand that then the atmosphere has time to move. Everything has time to adjust to this new position. And it's the same is true for a magnet and induction. To create induction, I have to move the magnet fast. If I move the magnet really, really slow, I won't induce any current at all. To induce a current, I have to push faster than the electrons can move. Then they can adjust their position. But anyway, let's see. As long as they exist, there is no acceleration or slowing down. So where did I ever suggest, especially waves in, that the movement of energy through the idea of particles, forces moving the speed of light? Where did I ever suggest they slow down? The only thing that slows them down is while they're pushing an electron. they're slowed down. It takes time to push an electron. The waves just reflect an event. Oh, that's just too silly. A rock thrown in the water. So he just keeps reiterating this. Like, I don't know what a rock does when it hits water. Duh. I mean, god damn it. You're the one who barely understands the concept. Okay, if they changed, it would be like changing cause and effect. So you're really insane, right? You're just fucking crazy. Well, what do you think the cause is and the effects are? What do you think is happening to water molecules in a wave? You think they're just moving by magic? You think some magic is telling them to move? You think when the water humps up that some magic thing told it to do it? Because waves carry information. Oh, it's just so stupid. We can use them for television and electron microscopes. I mean, you are just so pathetic. I mean, an electron microscope is a silly comparison when you think that that's so based on particles more than waves. I mean, it's an electron microscope, retard. And they really don't think of electrons as being waves. Especially in mechanisms like electron microscopes, because the electrons are following very precise paths. There's really no waves involved. So anyway, but fuck you. And the television image we know is it's a binary image. It's a scanned television was scanned across the screen, one little discrete dot at a time, very unwave-like. Retard. All right, so enough of that. People are exhaustingly stupid. All right, well, I'll leave that because I might use the other document later. All right, so we'll go back to this. And Franklin who? Maybe I'll throw a little of him in here. Did a really short video. He's ignored the video I sent him, so I guess it's just a waste of time attempting to talk to these people individually. And makes a 1 minute and 36-second video. I mean, my videos are way too long. Understood. Obviously, 1 minute and 36 seconds is way too short. Just no point in it. And you can't see anything, so it's rather useless. But what he states is more interesting than what he actually states in the video. But we might as well play it.
I'm going to be demonstrating the very important principle of how an electric charge creates a magnetic field. Now,
all right, so this stuff is really it's a conversation. At first you have to do a context on. You have to understand what conventional physics' theory is stating, what the assertion is. And I would argue the assertion is just misunderstood and silly. So, because they're using it to even degrade their own theory. I mean, the Bohr model of the atom is kind of defeated by their own argument, which is kind of ironic and funny. That they're attacking their own silly theory, with this argument that electrons are doing some mechanical work. So their argument is that when an electron flies through space, so the electron is just flying through space, that somehow it creates a charged field. Okay, that it's actually a dipole of some kind, and it has some kind of moment thing where it could flip. Like somehow it's positive negative, then it's negative positive, then it's positive negative, or some kind of thing is happening. That's actually excreting a field. That movement causes the electron to actually excrete. That it's actually making something. All right. Now, I would simply argue that that yes, when it's moving, well, I'm not going to get into the whole argument about the electron and protons moving, but the point is when it's moving in a conductor is completely different than when it's moving in free space. So you could argue when an electron is moving in free space, it's just a negative charge moving through space. And obviously, if I'm sitting here and I could measure charge, that is, I would be affected by it, like I was a compass needle. and I'm going to be affected by charge moving by. Obviously, when the charge is going by, I'm going to be affected by it because it's a charge. Okay, and I'm going to move. There's just no doubt about it. I'm going to move if a charge goes flying by. But it doesn't mean it's doing anything besides its normal thing, which is I'm a charged object and I excrete negative charge. It makes a field around it that's a negative field. There's no positive field anywhere. It's a negative electron. Okay, so we already know that they're just excreting this field that is repulsive to electrons and attractive to protons. So that's whatever you want to call that field. But anyway, but the point would be is in a conductor or a piece of matter, if there's a charge moving, that is, that if an electron is moving, you're going to understand that, well, that's going to ionize the atoms, essentially, right? I mean, if I add an extra electron, and I add an extra electron, so if this electron is moving across a field of atoms, right? I have a field of atoms down here, and the charge is moving across those atoms. Well, obviously, if I was looking down, I would see this atom become more negative. Okay, so it's polarized. It's got more electrons now on this side because of this extra electron. Now this one has the extra electron. Now this one has the electron. So all I'm doing is moving, essentially making the substance that the electron is part of now, that it's traveling across the surface of, well, at every really moment, it's basically ionizing these atoms. It ionizes this one, creates a polar atoms. Now the atom's more negative here and more positive here. And then it's more negative and more positive. It's just moving the ion, so to speak, the fake ion, the pseudo ion, we could call it, the pseudo ion. It's just creating a pseudo ion as it moves across the conductor. And then obviously when it leaves, it goes back to being neutral, or if it was positive, it goes back to being positive. So all it's doing is changing what is the polarity of the atom by making it imbalanced in some way, or rebalancing it, right? So I'm just saying it's either making it less positive, at any rate. That's what electrons do. Okay, so that's all that's happening. The electron isn't doing any work. The electron isn't imposing any, it isn't making the atoms move. It isn't making anything happen. It's just moving in front of atoms that have a polarity, and it's changing their polarity by circumstance. It's just another electron on this side of an atom. There's more electrons on this side than there are on this side, so the atom is now polar. It's no more complicated than that, frankly. Alright, so
in my previous video, I had hypothesized that the electric field is made out of dipoles, and so I've represented.
So he's saying the electric field. So when he puts these compasses here, he's not really representing atoms. He's representing something that's in space, which really makes it bizarre to me. So this demonstration, how a moving charge creates a magnetic field. The idea is that space is filled with electric dipoles. So he's filling space with matter, which makes no sense to me at all. Which act like compasses. Do they? Again, there's no evidence that anything, an electron moving this way through space, does much of anything in these directions if it's just moving through empty space. You can't make a very good magnet out of a beam of electrons. It's not a very powerful magnet. I'd say it doesn't create any magnetism at all. So where's your experiment demonstrating that a beam of cathode rays creates anything like a magnetic field as it moves?
Those by these compasses, and like a charged dipole, they will be attracted towards one polarity. So I have
a charged dipole, so that doesn't even make much sense. I mean, a dipole by definition is in inequality, having electrons and protons. a charged dipole you're arguing is either charged positive or charged negative, which you're just saying it either has too many electrons on one side or too few.
My magnet here, and so this magnet I'm going to be moving represents the electric charge, and as I move it across this string of compasses, let's see what happens. So as I move it across the
So my argument to this is a space argument would be is that movement, you're moving the compasses, that movement would totally retard the progress of the electron. The electron would be forcing things to move. And if it's forcing things to move, it can't maintain its energy. It can't maintain its momentum. Moving things absorbs the momentum. So there wouldn't be any hope of this electron surviving very long if it has to move all these compasses. Now I'm arguing drag will slow down the electron enough, but so my point would be is just visualize this as the atom's not moving, and this is these compasses moving is just showing you what the polarity is. So it's not showing something actually moving. The compass moving is just showing you the polarity. And while the magnet is part of the compass, now the compass polarity has changed. Just because there's an extra electron there, of course it's changed. But it didn't have to change the shape of the atom to change the fact that now the atom looks like it's polarized, because it has an extra electron. There's no electron in front of it, right? If I'm a neutral atom and an electron goes by, while the electron's in front of me, I don't look neutral anymore. I look something else. I look negative, right? Because I have an extra electron right there in front of you. But I didn't change. I just look different.
compasses, notice that all of the compasses are now pointing south. So they are all allowed so that all the south is on this end and all the north is on this end. Now what happens when I go the opposite direction? So this flips it around. So as this magnet goes by, now we've aligned it the opposite way.
Really didn't really show that very well. So I guess he's arguing that he turned the compasses, based on their original alignment, in the direction of the movement of the electron. So again, I'm saying that electricity is the movement of the electron. It wouldn't leave any enduring effect on the wire. The wire doesn't stay in some kind of condition because an electron went through, so that part just doesn't make any sense. And again, I don't know if he's just using the north side of the magnet, then they wouldn't be aligned in that direction. So he must be using a dipole magnet, that is the north and south end. He's running across the compasses, right? I mean, how else would this work?
And if I had like multiple magnets here, they would reinforce the direction here, so everything pointing north. Or if I had another current go the other way, everything pointing south this way. And that is a big...
So really all you're saying is which way are you initiating? Obviously the north side of a compass is going to move from a north magnet, right? And obviously it's going to move towards the south pole will repel protons. Will be the opposite. It'll attract the electron end, the north end of the magnet. So, it just depends on which way you're orientating the magnet. So you really haven't demonstrated what you're attempting to demonstrate. Yeah. All right.
Basic principle of how...
But you can't see it anyway. You should have marked the compasses where the north and south ends are, because it's really not very visible in this at all. Which way they're oriented. But he's saying this is happening in space, which just empty space is full of these little compasses.
A moving charge through a dipole field will preferentially align or polarize the dipole field. And this is what a magnetic field is. I'm going to be...
Well, anyway, obviously a magnetic field is something created by aligning a bunch of magnets. And you can make atoms into little magnets, and so if you align all the atoms in a certain way, then they'll behave like a big magnet, and that's all it is. Big magnets are made out of little magnets, And the little magnets are made out of atoms. And you can't make a magnet out of anything less than an atom. You have to have an electron and a proton in proximity, and that only happens in atoms. So there's no magnet without atoms. There's no magnetism. There's no dipole particle. There's only charge, electrons and protons, and you can put them close to each other and create a dipole. But there's no dipole particle. There's plus particles, minus particles, and neutrons are a combination of them, so they are sort of dipolar. But the trick with neutrons is they're probably spinning, and they're spinning so quickly that you can't tell. It's a red light and a blue light spinning. A red light and a blue light spinning is purple. All right. Anyway, so maybe that's it. I don't know if there's anything else it's necessary for me to go into. I guess that'll be it. Yeah, I'm going to try to make some shorter videos and go through each one of these subjects, the push-pull argument, just all these simple arguments, because that's where this conversation's got to, there's got to be some starting point and end point, some place where you have some agreement on some mechanical mechanism. And the problem with me and Franklin is that, the elemental universe, we have no compatibility. He thinks everything's made out of something, and I argue that no, most of the universe is absolutely nothing, and there's something's moving in it. It's just ain't gonna work. Trying to, until you resolve that some way or another. There's just not much compatibility in modeling when you don't get the whole bulldozer versus boulder analogy. Anyway, you really do. I mean, this is like solving any problem, right? I mean, you can't put a puzzle together by taking the pieces and putting them in the wrong places. Once you start doing that a few times, you have so much error built in that you're just not going to get anywhere until you fix the mistakes. Some other probably better analogy, but anyway, well, I'll pause and see if there's anything else I want to get to. Just noticed I didn't have the browser on, so I don't know. You didn't see the video.
Charge dipole, they will be attracted towards one polarity. So I have my magnet here, and so this magnet I'm going to be moving represents the electric charge, and as I move it across this string of compasses, let's see what happens. So as I move it across the set of compasses, notice that all the compasses are now pointing.
Right. Well, like I said, even if he's holding the north side down, you can understand that there's magnetic field that starts from the side of the magnet. And obviously the red end or blue end of the magnet will be further away, so it's obviously going to push the needle, the north side of the needle, away as it's approaching. And once it pushes it away, it's already causing it to go in one direction. But anyway. Sorry if I played the video without the video showing. That's kind of an egregious mistake. And it'd be nice if they had it go back feature here where I could just erase a previous bit, but I really can't without editing the video, and I really don't want to do that. So I'll just apologize and try not to do that. Blah blah blah. Alright, so I really don't think there's anything else. So we'll call it a video and move on to other things and such.